Oftentimes, when you look at a fertilizer bag, especially an organic fertilizer bag, the active ingredients are actually going to be common materials that you find in nature. And it can be confusing to figure out what those materials actually do for your lawn. Well, I'm here today with Todd Harrington of Harrington's Organic Care in Connecticut. And Todd, we've got a whole range of ingredients here, starting with sulfur on this end. And I'm hoping you can kind of take us through. Tell us where they come from and what each one of them does.
Okay. Well, basically, the only time we use sulfur is when a soil test recommends it, which in New England, where we are, is rarely the case. But every once in a while, we'll get a soil test back and it'll recommend sulfur. And that's usually when we have certain conditions in the soil where...
Be a high pH, correct?
Exactly.
Above 7.
Yes, and we call that alkaline soil. But every once in a while we do get alkaline soil, and we have to put sulfur down.
And the folks out west commonly have alkaline soil.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is a very common product out west where it's not so common here in New England.
Okay. Next?
This next product here is a pelletized gypsum. And basically gypsum is a combination of calcium and sulfur. And the reason, or when we would use this particular product, is from a soil test recommendation when we have low calcium and very high magnesium.
Okay.
And so the sulfur will actually interact with magnesium and leach it out, and the calcium will help build up the calcium.
It'll actually loosen the soil, make it easier to work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Next in line, I see we've got some kelp booster.
Yep.
And back here you've got some powdered kelp. Now tell me the difference between the two.
Basically, the powdered kelp is just the raw form of kelp.
Which is a seaweed.
Exactly. And this is a soluble form. As you can see, it's almost like powder. See how fine it is? So when you put it into water, it dissolves very quickly and stays in suspension. Over here we have a kelp that is actually mixed with other types of fertilizer and microbial materials. So it's a combination product with kelp in it.
Now what does kelp do for your lawn?
One of the neat things about kelp is that it has a lot of trace minerals in it that come from the ocean. So it's probably the cleanest raw form of trace minerals you could possibly get.
When you talk about trace minerals, everybody knows about nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, but there are 13 other elements that grass needs.
Right, which are extremely important. One of the things that we forget to do is put in any kind of trace minerals, and we are actually very deficient in certain trace minerals in this area. So this is kind of an all-around natural product that has trace minerals in it.
Excellent. Now you have two different kinds of limestone. The most common kind of limestone that most people use is going to be the dolomitic limestone.
That's true.
Fairly heavy in magnesium. Calcitic limestone, you started using that recently.
Right. We found through doing lots and lots of chemical soil tests in our region that calcium was the #1 deficiency here. Magnesium was only probably 25% of the time was it deficient. It usually was excessive.
Okay.
And because of that, we started using more and more of a straight calcium lime. So this particular high cal lime has probably only about 2 to 5% magnesium. Most of it is calcium.
Now magnesium will contribute to soil compaction and actually encourage weed growth if there's too much, correct?
It can.
Yeah.
It can. What happens is the magnesium, if you're on a property and you're walking along a property and you see the soil is cracking, it's a good chance that soil has a lot of magnesium in it.
Okay.
So that's a visual
Good to know.
indicator.
Now you have two different kinds of microbial soil life starters, Soil Science. What do these kinds of products do for you?
Well, this particular product we have several different humate products, and this humate product, think of it as just kind of a organic matter broken down to this final stage, which we call humus or humate. So we can actually get it in a prilled form that we can spread with a spreader. It's just the raw form of humate or humus that feeds microbial organisms in the soil.
So it's going to bring your soil back to life, especially if it's been treated with chemicals. You put this on, it's going to be a nice kickstart really for the life.
It definitely can be. I mean, most of these materials in front of us are really food for the microorganisms in the soil. And then they will convert it into a form that the plant needs.
Yeah, so they eat it. When they digest it, it turns it into nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, other elements that the grass can use.
Right, in the available form.
Okay. Now we've got a couple of different stone dusts, and it seems sort of counterintuitive to put stone on your lawn, but it really can help.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to putting stone dust down. One is very similar to kelp, it just happens to be in a form that we make it into a liquid. But this raw form is basically stone that's been crushed very fine to give us all kinds of trace minerals. And that's what you're seeing here. This is like a stone dust. This other material that's very dark in color is just It's another form of trace minerals and organic material. It's called, that one's a conditioner. It's very dark in color, and its basic component is humate or humus.
No odor whatsoever.
Nope, pretty odorless.
Yeah.
And that's actually mined out of the soil out west.
So this is really a nice buffet for the natural lawn. And these products really do work.
They work very well.
Excellent.
They work very well. But keep in mind that if you don't have biological activity in your soil, that these sometimes won't work for you. So you really have to have, they come hand in hand.
Good. All right.